In just a couple of weeks, the 2010 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series gets underway with the race at Daytona. Tammy Benscoter of Nascar always has the best seat at the track on race day. Tammy Benscoter started watching racing with her dad as a child.
He is not a football fan, so when you were home on Sunday afternoon with no cable, the only other channel was racing. So you kind of started watching it, and it was like a soap opera. After one or two races, you were addicted.
Later, in college at Bloomsburg University, Tammy was able to turn her love of racing into an internship for her major.
I studied mass communications at Bloomsburg University, and my internship was with the Media Center at Pocono Raceway and with Spectrum Features Syndicate, which is actually a magazine through the university, which allowed me to cover the Firecracker 400 at Daytona and the Indianapolis race in August of the same year.
Once she had a taste of the racetrack during that internship, Tammy was hooked on the thrill of being in the middle of all the action.
I got to go to the racetracks firsthand and see everything up close and decided that I would never pay for a ticket again. That's where I wanted to be.
For 12 years now, she has covered racing. First for the Danville News, she covered the local tracks, and then took a PR position with American Racing Driver Midget Series. All that experience played into her hands when she found SpeedwayMedia.com on the internet.
Found them online, and I was chatting with their webmaster and seeing what they were doing because they were just starting out and they really didn't have a photo section. And because I was familiar with Pocono, I offered that if they could get me credentials, I'd go shoot the Pocono race. And they put in a letter to the credential office and they said, sure, you're approved, you can come and take pictures. So I spent the weekend writing articles and taking pictures for them, and they're like, anytime you want to try another track, just let us know. And
a weekend at the racetrack is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. In the 3 days from qualifying on Friday through the celebration in Victory Lane on Sunday, Tammy will put in more than 40 hours.
You were a one-man band. When you were at the track, you had to get the news so you could write the article, but you needed the photographs to go with it.
Pocono Raceway and Dover are two tracks that are quite familiar to Tammy since she has covered races there for several years. She took me through what a typical weekend is like.
For a weekend at Dover, I leave home at 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning to arrive there by 8:30, 9 o'clock to get my passes. And after I pick them up, it's on the move. You know, you're taking your laptop and your camera equipment and you're traveling, walking in through the track is to the media center, setting yourself up so you have a place to download, you have a place to write, and then you're off to find your stories.
Those stories can come from anywhere. Press conferences for the top drivers, scheduled events for all the different levels of racing, fan events outside the racetrack, as well as getting a few words from the honorary starter. At Dover, there's a charity pool tournament that always draws a crowd.
On Friday night at Dover, you go to the hotel and casino, which is attached to the track, and there's a pool tournament for what they call like a celebrity pool tournament. They bring in a few other celebrities with the drivers. They play rounds of pool against each other till they narrow it down to one winner. They do some autographs, things like that, and they call it a night. You don't get back to your hotel till 10, 11 o'clock on Friday.
I was curious about just how much access the media is given during a race. As it turns out, it's all in the credentials.
There's two different passes that you can get. One is a cold pass and one is a hot pass. The cold pass allows you to be anywhere while the engines are shut off. When something goes hot or the engines are running, maybe the cars are moving in and out of the garage for practice, whatever the case may be, if you have a cold pass, you can't be there. Your hot pass allows you to be anywhere.
The media center for a race is on the infield, and that's where Tammy sets up her laptop. But the rest of the time, she's in the garages or on pit road.
You definitely talk to the crew, maybe a car owner, things like that when you're looking for stuff for your articles.
I asked her if she actually got to see the race while she's working, and she assured me she has the best seat in the house.
A lot of times you'll watch most of the race from pit road, standing in someone's pit box, waiting for the cars to come down. You may even be standing on top of the media center at Dover getting an eyeball view of it, but you get to see it.
To keep on top of the race, Tammy wears a headset with a scanner so she can tune into either a driver's frequency or the announcers calling the race, or both.
You might say on lap 54, you know, the 48, the 24, and the 20 are coming down, on lap 56, you're going to get the 14, the 39, and the 55. So you know how to place yourself in whose pit box for lap 54, and you know where to move for lap 56. You kind of can judge that on your own.
Before you begin to think that it's all glamour and hobnobbing with the NASCAR elite, let Tammy Rae tell you what it's really like for her on the racetrack.
It's hot. It is hot. I mean, sunscreen's your best friend. There's no makeup. There's no making sure your hair's done. You know, ponytail, baseball hat, sunglasses. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. I say it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dirty job.
It is.
Regardless, there's still a job to do, and a lot of it requires that she do research and keep in touch with what's going on in racing, even on the weeks when she's not at the track.
You are tuned into everything they're doing. You're tuned into This Week in NASCAR on Monday. You're tuned into the news. I'm a member of NASCAR Media Group, which actually allows me to get emails from NASCAR itself. So maybe they're telling me Carl Edwards is on The Price is Right, or here's the schedule for Champions Week, whatever the case may be. I have those emails coming into my cell phone every day, 5 and 6 emails a day from different people. You follow them on Twitter. You get to know them that way. At the same time, you watch the race into qualifying. I have DVR, so I tape that kind of stuff constantly. And you have to have a sense of where did they come from or what have they done, that if they do something really stupid or they do something really great, they're going to show up in your article, so you need to know the details of the past too.
Knowing your facts is important. Being able to pick out the drivers is another thing altogether.
You have to know how the drivers look in their regular street clothes too, because unless it's time for them to get in the car, they're walking around in jeans and t-shirts and baseball caps. You know, no different than the ordinary fan that's walking around looking for them.
Making connections with drivers and their staff can lead to work outside the racetrack. Tammy Rae was able to parlay her experience into a weekend fan event at Elliott Sadler's place.
I made a phone call to his PR person and said, hey, I'm interested if you need somebody. And he's like, great, come on down. And he's like, we just got somebody else for Dale Jarrett, so you'll take Elliott Sadler's pictures for the weekend, and it's at Elliott's house, and all's well. And it's like, okay. So there was like 3 photographers there, 3 different drivers. We each had our own, and as the fans come to greet them, our job was to take the pictures, and then our pictures got posted to their website.
Events like this are for the fans, but the money isn't going in the driver's pocket. This is something that people buy the tickets, the fans buy the tickets for, but all that money goes to charity.
Yes, and all his sponsors had kicked in, whether like Coca-Cola, Best Buy. Some of the racetracks brought in their food stands, things like that. I mean, it was simple as sitting on hay bales and watching somebody on a small scaffolding perform a concert like Bucky Covington and Blake Shelton. I mean, pretty big names in country music that he had in his own backyard.
She has also done photo shoots for SpeedwayMedia.com at some of the drivers' garages, most of which are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area.
Most of them are in the Charlotte, Concord, Statesville area. Some are in Kannapolis, and they're amazing. You could eat off the floor. They're high windows, and you know, maybe 20 of the same car, all in different stages of paint or all in different stages of motor preparation for a race that's coming up. And you go into these and you're just overwhelmed. They all have like a little souvenir shopping area for the fans to come. You know, this is the outside of what is now Evernham Motorsports, Richard Petty Motorsports in the Statesville area. So you have that. They have engines on display, the cars are there. We went to Stewart Haas Racing. This is what the inside of this shop looks like.
It's obvious that even after years working around the racing circuits, the thrill hasn't worn off for Tammy Rae. Unfortunately, regular jobs working the NASCAR circuit are difficult to come by, but for now, Tammy Rae, who works full-time as a customer service representative at an area bank, is happy with her situation.
For the access that we have, you could never afford the ticket. That's how I look at it. You know, it's not the $50 ticket that you would normally see at the racetrack. I mean, it's a great seat to have, but when you're 2 feet from the race car or shoulder to shoulder with the driver, it's a completely different story.
After rubbing elbows with crew chiefs and drivers for more than a decade, I asked Tammy Rae if she had a favorite story, and I have to admit, she came up with a good one. My first internship with Pocono, one of my duties was to go and drive a golf cart and bring the drivers to driver introductions. And I'm a college kid. I've never driven a golf cart. I don't play golf. So I have a little problem with the brake. When I finally get there, you're getting drivers to go to introductions. They weren't all necessarily dressed in uniform. And I hadn't done
enough research at that point. It was my very first race, and not to be that I was nervous or anything, but I was petrified. These famous drivers are getting in my car and I'm going to drive them in a golf cart really bad because I'm bad on the brake. And one gentleman said to me, "Hey, can I catch a lift?" And I'm like, "Sorry, drivers only." Only to find out he was a driver and I had his older brother in the car, and his older brother thought that was hysterical that I made him walk.
That driver was Michael Waltrip, and he still hasn't forgotten that little episode.
And every time he sees it, I get one of these. Like, that would be me.
Tammy Rae has covered races from Dover to Darlington, Pocono to Lowe's Motor Speedway. But there are still a few things she'd like to do.
I would love to go back to Indy for a second shot, just knowing what I've seen before and seeing how it's changed in the amount of time since I've been there. And I think I'd really like to go to Talladega. It's one of the fastest tracks out there. To see the cars with the restrictor plates, I've seen them at Daytona and other racetracks, so I think I'd want to go there. But I mean, outside of that, do I need to go to the West Coast to see a race? Absolutely not. No, I'm very happy. If somebody called me and said, you know, the job's there, I'd be packed and gone tomorrow. I would go every week if I had the opportunity or the means, but you know, I can only hope that happens someday.
I certainly hope Tammy Rae gets the opportunity to fulfill some of those dreams, though I have to say she's certainly seen a lot as far as NASCAR racing is concerned. If you want to keep up with Tammy Rae's photos and articles, check out speedwaymedia.com. Coming up, we'll meet a Danville couple who has turned their passion for beer into a thriving business.